To set the stage for today's webinar on this very thought-provoking topic, that is the designer's dilemma, the role of ethical design in the fourth industrial revolution. I'm excited to share that how we at School of Design are contributing our bit as designers to own our responsibility towards the communities around us. I will be sharing a small video put together by our team to make you understand how we are contributing our bit in building the future generation.
As part of our commitment to ethical design and social responsibility, our students at School of Design engaged in rural ethnography project in nearby villages adopted by DIT University under corporate social responsibility. Through immersive fieldwork and video documentation, they captured lived realities, community concerns, and local wisdom, translating these into how might we questions that inspire real change. This is design beyond the classroom. It's a call to conscience, a call to design, because the fourth industrial revolution is not just a technological shift, it is a societal turning point. And as designers, educators, researchers, and change makers, we now stand at a crossroads. Will we design for speed or for sensitivity, for systems or for people? This webinar is not just a conversation, it's a call to reflect, reimagine, and reclaim the ethical core of our practice.
I hope that we are able to share the ethos that we carry with us from this holy land of India. And I will request the participants to please do share in the chats that you are from which part of the world, because it will be a very exciting to know that so many people from across the globe have joined us for this noble cause, where we want to create this culture of being ethical while designing meaningfully for the future generation of this world. And also, in the end, we'll request you to please put up your question and answers in the chat so that we are able to share them with the panelists and answer your queries to an extent which is possible. Now, to keep the conversation going, as we understand that we are from different disciplines and from different borders and generation. So to set the stage going, the first panelist that we have with us is Dr. Toolika. And just to share that, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen reasons, she is not able to be part of this webinar virtually right now, but she has been kind enough to share her thoughts and opinion with us in a form of a presentation. So I will be putting together her presentation here, that how in the field of crafts and handloom, she is the director of Indian Institutes of Craft, one of the very premium institutes in India, which caters to the knowledge, the traditional knowledge, and which creates the designers for the future world so that they can use those indigenous knowledge which have been existing for so long and take it forward along with the technology and share with the world that how technology and the craft together can create beautiful products and in a meaningful way. So I'll just share her presentation with you.
Hello, everyone. A very good morning, a good afternoon, good evening to you from wherever you're watching this. Many thanks to DIT University and World Design Organization for making me a part of this conference and this discussion. Unfortunately, I'm traveling and thus I had to send this as a recorded presentation. The topic for today is cultural continuity, co-creation, and ethics in crafts and design. Well, to begin with, I'd like to talk a little about Indian handicrafts and about IICD, where I come from. I'm Toolika Gupta, the director of the Indian Institute of Crafts and Design. The Indian Institute of Crafts and Design, Jaipur, was set up as an autonomous institute by the government of Rajasthan in 1995. The aim was that the institute should be able to act as a catalyst of change in the craft sector. And since 2007, it is being managed by Ambuja Education Institute, AEI. under PPP mode, and it is affiliated to Vishwakarma Skills University, formerly known as Rajasthan Skills University. It provides bachelor's and master's degree in various areas of design. Not only bachelor's and master's, we look at entrepreneurship in design, we look at ethics in design, we try and teach a lot of programs that are meaningful, that add value today in this world of crafts and design. A little about Indian handicrafts. In 1996, UNESCO gave a definition for Indian handicrafts. And I look at it as every society has a tangible culture and an intangible culture. And our very strong culture has been our handicrafts. Handicrafts are available across the country in any material that you talk about today. And our material culture and knowledge culture is all around crafts. There is a lot of tacit knowledge which has been passing on from generations to generations for people to learn and understand how to take the crafts forward. There's a particular technique, there are colors and dyes, there's a knowledge of pottery, metal craft, woodcraft, etc. And it's very interesting to see that in India, people did not really differentiate between art, craft, and design. Together, it was known as Shilp. And today, a lot of people associate Shilp only with murtis or idols. But actually, Shilp meant the ability to design using a particular craft to handcraft the product and with art in it. I mean, even if you look at the swords that were made in India, even they have a lot of carving and fancy craft. Now, sword is something you use to kill people. Even then, it had to be so beautiful. So somewhere India was always appreciative of aesthetics, of added value. And it also showed that, researchers show that we did not really have a drawing room culture where we would get a handcrafted product and just keep it in our drawing room. The whole idea was to use the craft. It was always meant to be used. Today we look at Madhubani paintings, Mandana craft, and it comes as posters or book covers or cards or folders, and all of this we are trying to do so that people who know Madhubani get a livelihood. But actually, if you look at it, Madhubani was only done on the walls by women, and it was like a storytelling technique. So when we talk about ethics, there's a big question mark here because there's no one size fits all. There have been different ways, in which people have been working, and it has continuously been evolving in India. Unfortunately, whatever has been written has been very recent, and thus a lot of it seems to be like frozen in time. And what is important to realize is that Indian handicrafts are done with all the materials, whether it's wood, metal, leather, paper, textile. The knowledge of design, of material science, of geometry, proportions, etc. is all there. And it's noted in the earlier Vastu Shastra, Shilp Shastra, and Shastras like that, where we see there's a lot of information given. But because of lack of teachings in that particular language in which these Shastras have been written, people are not really able to access them properly. Also, I'd like to make it very clear that all the Indian handicrafts earlier were not meant for commerce. There were some crafts for commerce and trade, and they were largely done by men. The entire family worked for the craft, but what happened mostly was that the children worked as apprentices, the wives did a lot of background work or even the main work, but most of them were sold by the head of the family who became the entrepreneur, and each of them was known by the material they worked with. For example, potter was known as Kumhar because he created the kumbh, the matka. Weaver, bunkar, luhar, chamar, sunar, shilpkar. It all depended on the material that you are working with. So these were all handicrafts for commerce or trade. Now, if you look at crafts that were meant only for personal use, they were largely done by women in their free time, like Fulkari of Punjab, like Kantha of Bengal. Now, these were done by women for other women, either for themselves or for their sisters or sisters in law or mothers in law, daughters in law. These were made beautifully with a lot of added charm, value. Their motifs were beautiful, whatever people could think of. So they were, in a true sense, really creative. They created all these different products without expecting any commercial benefit in return. But slowly, and mind you, it's all linked, slowly the value of women and working in the home sort of reduced. It was only commerce, and money that the woman could bring added value. And so, women started creating these products, and designers and NGOs helped them to sell it in order to make some money. So this is how basically, now we perceive crafts as. But the books that have been written, say 60, 70 years ago, they still mention Fulkari as a craft being done by women for their family. But today, we hardly see it. Say 100 years ago, let's say if it was a very rich family, let's say a Punjabi family, so they would, the wife or the women in the family would create all these beautiful Fulkari dupattas to be gifted, but not anymore. Today, what we see is that if it's a rich Punjabi family, they will hire a designer to create the Fulkari for them, and that Fulkari will be outsourced to the rural women who will make money out of the entire process. So, when we talk about ethics, it's again very confusing. How have we converted everything into commercial products? How, if we look at ethics, then well, this was not supposed to be commercial, but today it is because people want to buy it. And a lot of it that was handcrafted is now machine made. It's still being called Fulkari. Where do we draw the line? What is right? What is not right is a big question to think about. There are no right answers at the moment. We want multiple things. We feel that yes, in order to eradicate poverty, women can utilize their skills to earn money. So, Mandana, that was being done on the walls in Rajasthan, is now being done on paper products so that the craft survives, the language of the craft survives, although its purpose is defeated. But people are getting some money out of that. Similarly, again for different paintings, for different embroideries, so craft has now become like a lot of people who create self-help groups who work with that particular craft, and the idea is to be able to sell the craft. When we talk about ethics in relation to designer and artisans, the issue here is that there are no bonds. Nobody really thinks that this is how we would like to approach it. So a designer, let's say, has a particular idea. They take that design and they go to the craftsperson, for example, a block printer. Now, the block printer will get the blocks carved and start printing without realizing that this is only meant for the designer who has commissioned it. And if somebody else walks in and they say that, oh, we'd like something like that, and they go ahead and give it to them. So this was happening, say, about 10 years ago. But slowly there is now this knowledge that's coming in that if, a particular designer has given us some work to do, we cannot, share it with somebody else. There is a kind of a code of conduct, which is sometimes written, sometimes unwritten, because a lot of designers who come to me, and we've had discussions, and they say that at least for 1 year, we would like them to not copy it for others. Similarly, when it comes to the artisans, a lot of the times designers don't pay them well, don't realize the amount of effort gone into sampling just for that particular design. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We are working in this regard. There are now collaborations, people who've come together during COVID to create organizations like Creative Dignity, Hand for Handmade. So they are coming together. British Council is doing a lot of work in this area, where this discussion on ethics happens. There's the GI already, and in spite of the GI, what happens is people sort of tend to reproduce the product. There is not much clarity. Some people feel that, okay, if I have a GI and I'm in this location, wherever I go, I can carry my GI with it, which is not true. So we need to have this kind of awareness for people to really realize the value of, being true to the person you're working for. Now, crafts are traditional or not traditional, but handicrafts are handicrafts. So now newer clusters are coming up, because handicrafts are no longer what was written in the books, say, like I said, 60, 70 years ago. Now everything is commercial. So in order to just look at that, if we see a few case studies, I'd like to point one. You can check out the video online. It's Ramasar Palawala into IICD. It's a case study. You can check and see. So we did a 3 months training program of women in this village, which is about 45 minutes by road, from our institute. It's called Ramasar Palawala. For 2 years, we trained about 20 women each year, so 40 women. And the ultimate aim was to promote self-reliance, so that if these women have a skill, how we can hone that skill, how we can add more value, and how we can link them to people who would need this kind of work being done. So the ultimate goal was looking at, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, like that. So here we provided them with, an opportunity of training, and thanks to SBI Cap Securities, they funded the whole project. And IICD worked on it. And Neela House then gave them work. So, if a lot of stakeholders come together and try to work for the people, basically, and promote handicrafts, because handicrafts actually have multiple benefits: mental health, because people work together, they sit together, and any kind of craft, if you do, it's like meditation. It helps to keep you calm, sustained. Then there's economic sustainability, there's recognition. So all of that adds value. And this is what we tried to do. Due to paucity of time, I'm not going into more case studies. But just to sum it up, I'd like to say that there need to be more and more roundtables to understand ethics in the Indian system, in Indian handicraft system, and then to make people aware, not only designers, but also artisans, how to take this positively forward. Thank you so much.
It was a very lovely presentation, and Dr. Toolika very beautifully narrated the dilemma, that how as designer and artisan they have been coping with it, and a powerful reminder of how tradition and technology can ethically coexist together. So with this, I would like to invite Ms. Shipra, a UX researcher and designer who have been working at the intersection of behavioral experience and AI. So she is the founder at User Connect consultancy firm and brings with her a great expertise in the area of the user research, where she has been interacting with the users on the field with a lot of empathy. So let's hear from her with her experience and her project, that how she has been able to take care of those ethical tensions and the conflicts she might be facing on the field. Over to you, Shipra, and welcome to you on this platform.
Thank you, Dr. Ekta. Hi, everyone. I am Shipra Bhutada. I run UCC, and I've spent the last 20 years listening deeply to users and making sure businesses don't just build what's shiny, but what's actually needed, right? So, in the past few years, I have seen that the shift, and there's been a shift in how we've been building the digital products in particular. right? It seems that somehow the speed has taken over all the aspects, and it's comparatively easier than before to make products. And I think that's led people to believe that it's okay to, just build stuff, move really fast, and break things. And I don't know if it's really helping us or it's just misleading us, because what it really is doing is it's just encouraging more people to create useless products and just rush to market, dump it there, and see if people use it or not. They are focusing more on making shiny features that really are not solving any of the core user needs. And it's ultimately just resulting to broken trust in the entire ecosystem between the key stakeholders, and it's leaving the users extremely vulnerable. And for me, when we are doing research, these are four very important core values that are at the core of everything that we do as researchers: empathy, passion, curiosity, and integrity. Empathy brings us closer to the people that we want to connect with. Curiosity keeps us on the core of everything we do as researchers, that keeps asking why. And passion really fuels the persistence. But the one that holds all of this together is really the integrity. It is the bedrock of all the strategic research and high stake research that we do, and it is what that it is the core value that ensures that we don't do just research, but we do it right every time. And, a lot of times when I have, people who are trying to learn research, interns, beginners, this is a question that they have, where is it that I really need to be more aware of how ethical I am being versus the stages that maybe are not so important, but I think it's non-negotiable. It is everywhere. Every key, key stage of how we navigate to the research process, ethics is something that we cannot just practice once in a while, because for me it's a mindset. It is starts very at the very start for me, because I run an agency. I have the uh, option to choose the people that I can work with, and over there it's very important for me to ask why are you doing this research, how are you going to use the outcomes of this research. And if it is just to validate a roadmap, then we pause, and that's a decision we take to terminate and not really go forward and engage on the business that we would have engaged on with that particular client, because we are not here to decorate some PowerPoints. We are here to really ask some hard questions, bring clarity, and help make better societies around us. The next is, if we move forward with a particular research project, it's important that we curate the right research participants, because who we talk to really defines everything that's going to be used as an outcome of this research engagement. And it's not just enough to find the right target users and bring them in. It's also about ensuring, however difficult it may be, to ensure that we bring the outliers, bring people who do not have yet not found a voice, but they will be dumped with this product to use and to struggle with. After we've done all of this, it is time for us to really, hit the fields. We do a lot of ethnography research, which means we interact with people in their context, in their environment, and we get an opportunity to, connect with them, share what they're going through. They open up their hearts and share a piece of their life with us. So it's not just about and this needs to be done with a lot of empathy and respect, because it's not just extraction of data from the field. We are dealing with some real human beings. And sometimes when we don't feel right, because of many reasons, we just stop. There's been times when we've traveled very long distances and we terminated a session because we thought something was not really right. Maybe the user wasn't right, or the way things were being approached wasn't right. But even after we have done all of this, it is just the next step. When we have gathered the story, where we are interpreting the data, making sense of the data, is when things get a little murky. Because when we are bringing all these stories together, connecting and seeing that how do we move forward, many times we come across surprises and discoveries that we did not anticipate, which may mean that we need to pause and go back to the whiteboard, sometimes go back to the field. But it's always that dilemma that we are working on a tight timeline. The client has stuff to take care of after they've received the outcomes of this project. But if you're not going to pause and chase that one inquiry that we think is worth chasing, then we might just give something that's fancy to the client, which may not really help them build something that's meaningful. And those are some real everyday dilemmas. And we always choose to pause and make sure that we practice integrity to make sense of the stories, and not just in the process of how we collect them. But the most important thing and the last opportunity that we have to practice, integrity is when we are framing those insights. Many a times, this is actually the final test of how we have performed from the first stage to this stage, because many times you come across learnings and findings which may not be in favor of how the business would have wanted to move forward with. They would have already made some investment, have a roadmap, and the story might just be a blocker. But it is on us, if you're going to, because we are the only people who have been the on field, listened to the stories, done a research. If not done right, not in the right measures, here is the time when you can change the story, tweak the story in favor of how people would have liked to use it, but that might have not really led to something that's meaningful. So those are the times when we have to make the decision to share the stories as is, even if it is difficult, even if it means that the business may not really take off the way they had anticipated. So those are some of the very difficult day-to-day dilemmas that we as researchers face. And many times these are just two things that I find myself, which is choosing between speed versus authenticity, or helping the businesses achieve their goals versus really bringing the user stories to the front. And ethical practice doesn't really mean avoiding these tensions, it means staying awake to them, right? And choosing wisely in each moment. And I would like to share a story which might help us to illustrate of how all of this can come together. So, a couple of years ago, we had this opportunity to work with a global medtech giant who was trying to design a product for the Indian context. By now we know that a lot of brands have learned and realized that products or a service that may have worked in other parts of the world, if dumped as is, may not find a place in the Indian market, right? So here was an opportunity for us to work with these guys in helping patients manage their health conditions better, right? So which means it's whatever the outcomes are actually going to have an impact on the lives of the people, right? So in this research, we did get the brief from the client. As always, they had certain user sets in their mind. Their product was ready. They've been through the R&D. In fact, the clinical trials were on. And they had come to us with a very simple request to help and understand in what context would people use this and what kind of pricing is going to be okay, right? Which means where will this product sit? What are the kind of usages people will find, and how much would they pay for it. But when we started the research, we saw that the initial brief that we got about the user segment was not really real, because maybe before this nobody had hit the fields, and we came up with all these insights that we might need to change the entire user set. And it is these stages when we find ourselves lucky that we chose the right leaders, where they were okay at every stage to move forward and help us take those big decisions. They agreed to change the user segment. When that was done, we started to connect with a lot of all those stakeholders in that ecosystem, the healthcare practitioners, the caregivers, the market side of people, the ecosystem enablers. And we learned that if this product may be helpful, but if it's going to sit as is in the current workflows, it may really disrupt the way the practitioners are going about with their day-to-day lives. So which means even if there was little value that was extended by this product, there were some practical barriers of why practitioners would have not adopted this as is. When we met the patients, we learned that there were this kind of resistance due to the cultural, code, and sometimes because of the cost, the affordance of how much people would like to pay for this. And then the last part was there was no end-to-end, a mechanism for the adoption of this particular intervention, these were like really hard truths. And we always had a choice to go by and tell a story that may please the client, or take those decisions to go and tell the truth because this doesn't look great. This might just mean that all the preparation that they were doing to go about with their sales strategy would have to be abandoned because they might need to go back to the whiteboard. But having those conversations, being true to what we learned, ensuring that we are telling the stories as is, and taking that responsibility very seriously, that the insights that we're going to share has a potential to shape the future. Right? So after this 5-6 months of entire work that we did with this particular client, I was so proud that we had these partners who actually took the big decision to pause all their efforts, go back to the whiteboard, learn from the gaps that they had identified, and start on the entire research and product development from zero. Right? So this is where and there are many such stories. Because we do not have enough time, I would not have the opportunity to get into those in details, but I would like to leave you with this thing that I really believe in, that in today's world, there speed is often valued, and there's this scale that people keep talking about. It's ethical research is our way to say that people have to comfort. It has to be human-centered design, because if insights can generate because the insights that we generate can shape what gets built, then our ethics has the power to shape what kind of world we are helping to create. Right? So with that, I will leave you. I'll be happy to engage with more Q&As towards the latter part of the conversation. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and listening to my perspective.
A very well wrapped up session, Shipra, I must say, and very pertinent points that you have highlighted, that ethics in research and on the field should never be compromised, as it can completely change the problem statement if user voices are not heard significantly. And the example that you gave, that it has to be both the ends, not only the user and the researcher, but also to the, I must say, the sponsors of the project. If they are not open to taking such kind of, or to accepting such kind of changes and acclimatize themselves, so it is of no use. So ethics has to be there at both the ends of the project, and it's a very important takeaway for all of us. And with this, thank you so much, Shipra, once again. And now I would like to invite Professor Parag Anand, who is professor and former head at the Department of Industrial Design, School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, India, one of the most premium and the oldest institute in the field of design that we have. So we like to hear from first, welcome to this platform, Parag. And we will really appreciate and we'll be delighted to know from you any of the projects that you and your students have done, where your product innovation have influenced the public behavior or community well-being. Again, adding to the ethical chain that we as designer would always like to contribute in the growing world, which is overwhelmed with the technology. Over to you, Parag.
Thank you. Thank you, Ekta. And good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you're in the world. That's greetings from India. I'm Professor Parag Anand, and I'm industrial designer, and I teach industrial design, and industrial design has been my passion. Today, I'm going to talk, and thank you, DIT and WDO, for giving me a chance to talk about how how differently we started looking at sustainability. So my topic today is about sustainability beyond materials and how it impacts designing, or how we design for impact. So when I talk about sustainability, rather, I always talk about inclusion, and I say it's a balancing act, rather, when we talk about sustainability in today's context, when there is a huge amount of technological impact on everything we do. So I summarize this as a balancing innovation with inclusion, where everybody is included, and when we talk about sustainability, is more than eco-friendliness of the material, which can create a systemic impact and truly include various aspects of our society. So, and I rightly said that with the what I call as a industry 4.0, or rather we started talking about it as industry 5.0, in the context of industry 4.0, there are a lot of dilemmas as per when we start designing, or when I start teaching, when I talk to my young designers who are highly well versed with technology in today's context because they are highly exposed. So the dilemma for these designers still remains that either the speed at which I should work, or is it the sustainability I should talk about? Is it that innovation I should talk about, where one side there are people, where are startups, where people are talking about innovation, everybody wants innovation, country needs innovation, or should I talk about inclusion? In the whole race of this dilemmas, there is there sometimes there is a possibility of ethics being compromised, or maybe the efficiency in the race of achieving efficiency. Are we doing? Are we compromising on ethics? But these are all dilemmas which are actually we are struggling, or we are trying to navigate this through these dilemmas. So, and as a designer, or as a person, more as a design teacher, I think that these are either challenges, or maybe these are opportunities for us, the new opportunities for us. So when I talk about speed and sustainability, so I talk about social equity, I talk about systemic impact and long-term behavioral change, which we are able to create in the society. So when I talk about sustainability per se, when I talk about sustainability, many a times we talk about sustainability as a mere choice of materials. But sustainability actually goes beyond that. Maybe sustainability can promote equity. Sustainability can promote long-term behavioral change. Can sustainability be effective? Or person, when I say the product is sustainable, not only when it degrades effectively, but also when it uplifts communities and the environment. At the end of the presentation, I will take you through one of the very interesting projects, which the glimpses of this have been attached. When I talk about innovation and inclusion, I talk about environmental guardianship, social inclusion, or behavioral transformation, where I talk about how the materials are consumed, how the materials consumed from start to end. When we do a project, have we included everyone in the project, or were we able to change the behavioral aspects in our project? So that those are the essential factors when we talk about innovation and inclusion. So when we design the system, we started designing in silos. We are very restricted to ourselves, but we are talking about going far, talking to communities. We are talking to stakeholders, talking to users. User-centered designs are the things which we are trying to inculcate in students at this moment. And the major thing what we are trying to do here is to include a circularity of design. In the circular economy, we are trying to include the circular aspects of design. On this context, we are talking about efficiency as well, where ethics are not compromised. Can we have a balance where efficiency and ethics are going hand in hand? So when we talk about this, then the efficiency of design success possibly is like how we have changed the behavior of with the products, how we have impacted their life? Are there stories? Are there many at times it's not about the numbers. It's not about how many lives you have changed, but how many stories have you created by creating the product, which is essentially a part of this ecosystem. So I'm taking you through one of the projects which recently we have done. This is a typical sugarcane juice machine, which is in India. And people love to have sugar cane juice because of the climate and its health benefits. So when you get a sugar cane juice, what you get as a residue is a lot amount of bagasse, which is a residue, and this is generally thrown. So student came and said that we need to do something about it. Can we do and process it and make some interesting products out of it? So we said, all right, why not? Let's look at it in a different way. First, we'll start with how to do a product from the residual bagasse. So when we looked at it, the bagasse, we had a lot of experimentation with bagasse, and when we mixed it with multiple materials, we were able to create very interesting shapes and sizes and products. So finally, we created pots. How can we create pots out of bagasse? How? Because the material we had to send somewhere else to process. But the problem was, how can we make it circular? So the final design, we worked on designing of a sugarcane machine, which essentially creates pots out of the remaining bagasse. So I will not be able to show you the final design, which has been blurred because of the patentability of the product, which has already been applied for. So how the product works essentially is, when we get sugarcane from farm, we process sugarcane, we get bagasse. So now the sugarcane machine has an integrated bagasse shredder, which essentially shreds bagasse into small pellets, and which will then be collected by a person who has already given sugarcane. So the remaining bagasse will go to local communities where they will be given molds to convert this bagasse into potting pots, and then which will go to, then they are able to sell it to local nursery, which are then used by farmers to replant in their field. So that is what we call from soil to soil, which is essentially a circular approach. So I'll stop here with this one, and thank you. And sorry for the glitches which has happened. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Parag. I must say it's a very interesting project that you have shared with us, and it gives a great insight to us that how, as designers, as industrial designers, we can contribute towards building a habit for the community towards sustainable consumption, I must say. And in this era of fourth industrialization, what we have been talking about, which is a kind of blurring the boundaries between the physical, digital, and the human spaces. So this kind of projects, I feel they have a lot of power, and they provide a lot of space for the ethical transformation itself, and how both things go together, the technology and the ethical thought for the sustainable consumption, how these two go together to create such kind of products, which I think that the thought process for this project, which must have started, was something related to a frugal product you must have been wanting to create. But gradually, you must have interpreted that how to scale it and how to use the latest technologies which are there. So I think that these are wonderful examples from the holy land of India that we can share with the world around, and just let them know that what we when we are talking about the philosophies of dharma and how we are able to contribute and how to apply those things in our daily practices and conduct. So thank you so much, Parag, for this lovely presentation. And I'm sure that there must be a lot of questions from the audience, which must be coming up to you, because it's a very interesting project. So let's see at the end of the webinar what is there in store for you to answer to the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So with this, I would like to invite Architect Jitendra Arora He is a practicing architect and designer, and also a visiting faculty to many prominent design schools in India, including NID. So, Jiten, we are very much looking forward to know about your reflections on how right pedagogy can be a motivator to make studio work more inclusive and just, and without compromising with the ethics in the era of this generative AI that we have been facing as a challenge, and a lot of tensions, ethical tensions we face now and then with respect to the projects of the student with respect to authorship or co-authorship. So I feel that you will be the right one to let us know about this. Over to you, Jitendra.
Thank you, WDO. Thank you, Bertrand, Dorothy, DIT School of Design, and Dean Ekta for giving me this opportunity. It's been a pleasure listening to all the panelists, and I'm here to share an educator's perspective. So as you said, I've been involved in design education for over 25 years, first as full-time tenured faculty and of late as a guest or visiting faculty. In my experience, ethical dilemmas in design education show up at several junctions. Frameworks do exist, but there are some areas where clarity is still needed, especially around co-creation and co-authorship, intellectual property versus digital dissemination, and of course, the use of AI in classrooms. I'll focus mainly on the first two today. Now, all those who've been to design schools would know that a design school, a design classroom or studio as it is called, is quite different from a traditional classroom. There are no fixed textbooks. Instead, learning happens through dialogue, critique, iteration, with feedback coming from mentors, peers, visiting experts, and industry professionals. Students also rely on platforms like Google, Pinterest, online encyclopedias, and social media, and not just for research, but also to validate and share their work. And AI is now entering the mix in a big way. So essentially, co-creation is at the heart of how we teach and learn design. And students and faculty constantly collaborate. Ideas evolve through shared conversations and feedback mainly. Now, this sort of a studio, this sort of imparting of education challenges the conventional idea of sole authorship and singular ownership. To illustrate this, I'd like to share a recent experience. Last year, I offered an elective in space and exhibition design. The goal was to help students produce a tangible, well-rounded output by the end of the course. The students responded with real enthusiasm, and wherever they struggled to illustrate their ideas, especially when it came to spatial representations, we used AI to support their visualizations. The outcomes were strong, and we felt it was worth sharing. So we created a simple LinkedIn post celebrating the students' learning and achievements. It was clearly non-commercial, meant for learning, exchange, and visibility. But to our surprise, after the post gained traction, likes and comments, we were asked to take it down. It made me pause and reflect. Who holds authorship in a co-creative learning environment? And if authorship gives the right to share, who gets to decide what to share, when to share, how much to share, and how to share, whether it's the faculty, student, or the institution? And how do we ethically share student work in a digital-first world? These questions haven't been answered yet, but I thought this was a platform where I could at least talk about that these questions do sometimes concern both the educators and the students. Moving on from that, I'd like to share another example, one that surfaced a different kind of ethical tension. Around 15 years ago, at a private institution, we made formal research a core part of our undergraduate design curriculum. At the time, this was quite an unusual move. We encouraged students to explore meaningful topics, social issues, cultural patterns, personal fascinations, and build structured inquiry-based work. But we quickly ran into two big issues: heavy plagiarism or last-minute patchwork, low or superficial engagement, because students saw research as a purely academic, non-creative exercise. And as a result, they didn't really invest in it. They didn't really enjoy it. So after some struggle, we had to reframe the process. We launched Best Research Awards, but with a creative twist. And the best research outputs, basically the twist was that the research had to result in a script for a short film. And the best research scripts would be turned into short explainer films. And that somewhat changed the game for us. In fact, in due course, it changed everything for us. Students were invested. Research became a tool for storytelling and not just citations. In fact, 2 of these films even made it to international festivals in Europe. One on the left, based on cultural history of intoxicants, turned into a satirical zombie short. And the other explored youth mental health and became a sensitive educational film. I'll just share the trailer. We've combined some clips of the 2 films into a trailer. Just like to play it. It's not very long. So this showed us what can happen when research and creativity are allowed to inform each other. And from both these examples, what are my key takeaways? What are my key learnings? Ethical frameworks are important, but they need to allow room for context and flexibility. Visibility definitely matters, but integrity is important, of course. Co-creation is immensely rewarding, and it challenges old systems of ownership. But do our current ethical structures support it or suppress it? And I think we need to build more supporting frameworks. Ethics in design education, I feel, isn't just about avoiding the wrong. It's about navigating shared creative spaces thoughtfully. And our job isn't to police creativity, but to guide it, protect it, and honor it. That means designing environments where authorship is respected, collaboration is acknowledged, and innovation can thrive responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jiten, for this. I must say, as a academician, this is something that we more often ponder over. Our students do get inspired by the work of the other designers or the other researcher. But at the same time, how do you convert that work without ethically compromising with the research or the plagiarism issues of those kind of work? So I think it's a wonderful approach that you have shown to the students and to the people who are in the field practicing on these kind of projects, that how they can be empowered by the technology, how they can be empowered by the innovations and the revolutions which are happening in the field of the technology, and at the same time be rooted to the ethics and the values without compromising on the other person's work, but conveying the message in a very acclimatized form in their own unique way, in their own, leaving their own USPs with respect to those projects. So it's a wonderful project, I must say, and I'm sure that many people will be very much interested to know more about it. And I can see that you must have shared the link in your presentation so they can go through it and know more about how you have been able to do that. Once again, on behalf of School of Design, DIT University and WDO, I would like to thank all the panelists. And at the same time, I would just like to share a small presentation about the School of Design, about the DIT University, so that the audience is aware of that from which part of the world we are talking about. So I'm sure that they must be interested in knowing more about the DIT University. So it's a small slide which gives the information about who we are, what we do. DIT University has been in the education industry for almost last 26 years, and the first very private university in the state of Uttarakhand. And as a School of Design, we are running 5 programs as of now, 4 bachelor's program, 4 years, and 1 master's program in UX. And our BDIS user experience program and master's user experience program, as well as BDIS visual and animation program, is very well taken off by the prospective students in the northern part of the country. So that is what I just wanted to show. And to leave my note with respect to how we should be looking forward in this age of 4th industrial revolution, which has been brought up, I will say post-COVID, it has become more prominent that how technology, how automation, how the artificial intelligence, which it sometimes becomes very scary for all of us, is shaping the way the world is going to be moving forward. So as a designer, I feel that the philosophy of dharma, which comes from the ancient Indian philosophies, it has a lot of guiding principles to let us align the righteousness, responsibility, and our rightful action with respect to how we conduct the design projects, both on the field and both with the sponsors or the companies. So it's just all that it is all rooted in the conscious, and how we are able to apply that consciousness, that local wisdom, and design with a foresight to keep a balance between the technology and our values. So with this, I open the forum or the platform for the question and answer. If there are any question and answer, we'll be welcome to answer that. I will just request the audience to keep it brief, keeping in mind the time, because we are short of time. And let us know to which panelist that question is for. I think that there was one question which I'll just speak to, and I think that this is for Mr. Parag. So one of the audience would like to know that how emotional design or empathetic design psychology will evolve and play a role in shaping user experiences. So this is, I think, for Shipra. So I think that you'll be the right one to answer it. So she just wants to know that how emotional design and empathetic design psychology can play a role in shaping user experiences, keeping in mind the advancements of the artificial intelligence in the 4th industrial revolution. A very good question. So Shipra, I'm sure that you would like to take it.
Yes, sure. Yeah, thanks for that question. And for me, AI is still just yet another tool that's going to help you take your original thinking forward, right? So I think it's too early for us to start to place a lot of importance on AI, but really use the human powers that we have to be empathetic, to really understand the context, to make sense of the soft emotions that we live with. And once that is taken care of, AI will only help you make sense of it at a very nuanced stage. So my advice is start connecting to people, do your ground research, leverage the qualities that we already have as humans. So I think we've yet not learned to tap in the human intelligence, the empathy that we have gifted, the emotional intelligence. So let's just thrive on those, get those to the max, and then we will see that AI is just a way for us to move forward. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, behavioral sciences, I think there's a lot of work to be done on ground. Get that learning in place, be more comfortable to work with humans. I think we are forgetting the art of conversation, to really be able to listen to people, to be able to be there to understand them. So I think practicing empathy is important than ever in the history, I think. So
I'm sure that is absolutely rightly put up by you, Shipra. At the same time, I always keep telling my students also and myself also that in this 4th industrial revolution, we have to learn to coexist with the technology, because that is something we cannot do away with it. And you rightly pointed it out that as humans, we have to leverage our own value. We have to leverage on our own strength. That is the greatest strength, is the emotional intelligence that we have. And when we talk about this technology, we have still not reached the third and the fourth stage of the artificial intelligence, that is the super intelligence. So till the time the super intelligence is not there, I'm sure that we should be able to leverage our emotional quotient and work together with the artificial technology to move forward. So thank you so much, Shipra. I'm sure that the participant must be satisfied with the answer which you have given. I'll just read one more question which is there, put up by one of the other audience. So this question is for Parag, you.
Yeah.
She says, I don't know, in light of India's recent push for frugal innovation in digital public infrastructure like ONDC and UPI, how can designers ensure ethical responsibility in scaling these systems without compromising with the marginalized communities and non-digital communities? It's a very good
Thank you.
question, keeping in mind the diverse population that India has.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for a nice question, rather, because what I think I always, when I look at what we call the marginalized communities per se, right? If you look at the penetration of in a digital public infrastructure, or what we call as a frugal, not frugal innovation as far as like she is quoting as UPI or ONDC, the penetration is fairly good, and many times I found out that they are more well-versed with us, with the system, than possibly with us. When I look at, I go and buy, vegetables or fruits from somebody, they say that, sir, do you have UPI? Can you just send it quickly, because I don't have 2 rupee change, or so and so forth. So for designer, when we say that it is our responsibility to include, make it as simple as possible, make it as user friendly as possible, and and just these communities are ready to accept everything we are going to get, because their learning curve is far easier than us, I think. In my total experience, as far as when I experience with students, when I empathize, when I go and talk to this, on ground, when we talk to this communities. So I think that's where I guess that we as a designers always consider that as happening, and we should be doing that. I hope the question she is asking, she or he is asking, would this and answering this question.
I'm sure that she must be, I'll just read the name of the person who she is. Okay. So would any of the other panelists would like to answer?
Yeah.
Jiten, would you like to add to it?
I think that was on point. We assume that inclusivity is to be provided, but in digital era, we are seeing that people are far more, like he said, use the word worst with technology sometimes than we assume they are. So I think that assumption will have to be sidetracked, and I think the meaning of and the extent of inclusivity is changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the world is not divided into exclusive and inclusive anymore. I think the boundaries are blurring. And I think if we just I think sometimes we tend to be very condescending when we say we've got to make things inclusive. Why do you think the other person wouldn't feel included already? What is it that's causing that exclusion? So I think at the cost of not being condescending, I mean, we shouldn't be condescending, and we should give them that benefit of doubt that probably they already know. I think that's where I see the boundaries are blurring. I don't know if I've answered the question, but I do agree with you in a lot of ways, Parag sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think that is wonderfully put together and rightly said, that in today's India, even people who are not very highly educated, but they are using the UPI system like, I must say, it's a kind of mundane task for them, a kind of daily chore for them, which the way they are using. And at many points, I have seen these vendors who are indulging into informal economy on the roadside, they are very well informed and more informed even than you and me.
Yeah.
So that is the beauty of this frugal, the India which works together alongside the frugal innovation as well as the sophisticated technology. That is the beauty of the Indian population, I must say, along with the kind of vision that the India is seeing and moving forward to. So thank you so much, Parag and Jiten, for this wonderful reply. And I don't think that there is any other question in the chat, except there is one question for me only as a moderator, and it's a very nice question. So it says that, do you think UX is a philosophy, and can you support your answer within example? So I think that yes, UX I see as a philosophy, not only me, it's a kind of philosophy which is a very common philosophy and for which unconsciously many of us are following. And in the Indian traditional system, since childhood only, we have been taught to be more responsive and more, I must say, accommodative towards the other people around us. So that is the root of this user experience philosophy, I must say, where we are talking about the user. So it is not just a process, it's a discipline. And it's a way of thinking which places, I should say, that human needs, behaviors, and emotions at the center of all the design decisions, not only design decisions, but all the decisions that we are taking with respect to any kind of projects that we are encountering with or we are interacting with, whether it's a person, a product, a service, or a system for that matter. And to give an example, which I'll need a minute to think over what will be the common example with which most of us can associate. So to talk about the example where the UX or a user UX tool has been applied as a philosophy, I think that if we look into the Delhi metro system, the way it has been designed, the ticketing system of it, the signages, the frequency of the trains, and the announcements which are taking at the platform, and for that matter, the wayfindings which have been created and crafted, keeping in mind the different kind of user and the inclusiveness that we see on the metro platform. So all those have been well crafted, keeping in mind, and we have seen that the metro stations, they have evolved over the last 20 decades. If we talk about the Delhi metro, what it was in 2000 when it started and what it is now. So they have also been improvising by taking the feedback of how the user is experiencing the different aspects of the component of the metro station. So all these have been there to minimize the friction so that they are able to enhance the easiness and the comfort of the users and from the different categories of the user, keeping in mind the inclusivity and the accessibility also. So that is the most common example that I could relate to when we talk about how UX can be used as a toolkit or as a mindset also with respect to championing the thoughts of inclusivity, empathy, or for that matter, the purposeful designs that we can talk about. I hope this is something for which we can keep on talking on and off. And good to see that people have so much of interesting thoughts and so much, the whole webinar have been able to create or incite the audience with respect to thinking more about this discipline. And I'm thankful to all the panelists. Now I will hand over this platform to my colleague Swatika to give the word of thanks. So Satvika, can you?
Hello everyone. It is with a great pleasure and gratitude that I deliver the vote of thanks as we conclude this thought-provoking and deeply enriching webinar. On behalf of the School of Design, DIT University, I extend my heartfelt thanks to the World Design Organization for their collaboration and vision, especially to Mr. Darumi for his inspiring words and reflections on ethical design in 2025. A sincere thank you to all our esteemed speakers and to our respected Dean, Professor Dr. Ekta Singh. Thank you for enriching this entire session with clarity and purpose. To our audience, students and educators, professionals and guests, from across the globe. Your presence and engagement and questions brought this dialogue to life. Thank you for being part of this important conversation. As we close, I invite each one of you to carry today's reflections forward, engage ethically, stay connected, and act with purpose. Let's continue to design with dharma and lead with empathy. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.